Happy 20th.
All right, let us go through this massive rally, which I think is the biggest news story of the entire economy. We got our market experts this evening. CNBC contributor Don Luskin of Trend Macro. CNBC contributor Jerry Bowyer. We have Peter Schiff of Euro Pacific Capital and author of the little book of Bull Market Moves in Bear Markets. And Dougie Cass of Sea Breeze Partners Management. I am still calling this the Dougie Cass bottom. And I want to ask you, Dougie, is America turning the corner?
It's clear that we're seeing a light at the end of the economic tunnel. And surprisingly, as I said 6 weeks ago, it's the consumer that's taking us out. Real consumer spending was up 1% in the first quarter versus a 4% decline in the second half of last year. And non-auto retail sales are up 1.9% in the first quarter versus an 8.5% drop in the fourth quarter.
So, Dougie, let me just ask you, stay with you for a second before I bring in others who may have different points of view. How does one play this? You've had this explosive rally. Now folks are all waiting for the great correction to get back in. But I've seen this before. So have you. So have our other guests. Sometimes that big correction never comes. You got to jump in some point. How do you do it, Doug?
Yeah, I think we've hit a generational low that we won't see the S&P at 666 for the next couple of years at the least. And I think you stick with early cycle stocks like housing-related stocks and retail stocks and stick with Kudlow.
Stick with Kudlow. That's very sweet. Now, we got a Ben Bernanke quote from a speech today that throws some cold water on this. I don't know whether that was his intent or not. But Mr. Bernanke is very concerned that the credit damage is going to be continuing and ongoing. There's a second issue with Paul Krugman, the New York Times columnist, and I'm being extremely fair and balanced on this point. Krugman thinks that the risk is there's a double-dip recession. There's his column, Green Shoots and Glimmers. But at the end of the thing, he reminds everybody that we did have a pop coming out of the Depression in 29 to 33, and that by, what, 36, 37, we went down again into another recession. So let me go to Don Luskin. Don, do you think that America is turning the corner? Do you think this is unambiguously good news?
Oh, gosh. No, it's of course not unambiguously good news. The good news about it is just 3 or 4 months ago, everybody thought, and there was just no argument against the proposition, that we were in a vicious cycle that was going to take the world economy right down to zero. There didn't seem to be any way out of the vicious cycle of reduced consumer spending, reduced employment, falling real estate prices, increasing defaults, and so on and so on. And now, here we are, actually looking like we're kind of stabilizing. You got to stabilize before you can turn around and turn up, so at least we're stabilizing. And the bears who said we were going straight to zero, they're going to at least have to admit that that was wrong. Now, it's true. We had some great bear market rallies during the Depression. We had 3 years of back-to-back double-digit positive real GDP growth in the Great Depression. And then, as Krugman points out, we had that horrible depression within the Depression in 37 and 38. And what Krugman doesn't say in that column is it was the New Deal policies of FDR, which look very much like the New Deal policies of Barack Obama, that caused that depression within the Depression.
Amen.
And so I worry, have we turned the corner only to get near another corner? Fine, we're stabilizing. That's a corner. But the other corner we've turned is the corner on the road to serfdom, because we're putting in place more government intervention in the economy, higher taxes, and we're going to pay the price for that.
Well, okay, let me go to Peter Schiff on that. Now, Peter, one of the issues with Krugman's argument or worry or whatever it is that the Federal Reserve tightened policies, and he's right, by the way, and that the government cut back on government spending. I think he's wrong on that. But I want to ask you, you're always worried about inflation, the value of the dollar. Fine. Is there any evidence in your judgment that the Fed is not going to keep the monetary spigot on? Because I think the Fed's monetary spigot is a key ingredient in this rally.
Well, it is, but it's a key ingredient in the problem. As usual, Krugman is right, but for the wrong reasons. We haven't turned any corners yet. Unfortunately, we're still headed in the same wrong direction. We're continuing to go deeper into debt. We're subsidizing bad behavior. We're bailing out companies that should fail. Government is growing like a cancer, and more importantly, as Don said, we're abandoning free market principles. As you know, Larry, the only path to prosperity is free market capitalism. Instead, we're goose-stepping down the road to serfdom.
Is this a 70s story, Peter? You can get these monetary booms in the short run. Then comes the inflation. And yes, we're looking straight in the eye at more command and control government with the EPA dictum today. We may be going towards cap and trade.
I think
Is this a 70s style story,
No,
Peter?
I think it's much worse. I think it's a combination of